At 7:34, we'll reconvene back into open session. And this is the item number 5, discuss, review, take any necessary action to approve the interlocal agreement with Bartlett Independent School District Public Improvements Reimbursement. And Jackie has asked that she abstain since she is an employee of the school.
So I want to start off with, before we get into the whole conditions and why we're talking about this, even if we pass this tonight, it's not to be meant or interpreted that it goes straight into effect. We're kind of going to be in a back and forth conversation with the school if they have any conflicts with it. I don't suppose that there will be, but if there is, this item might be brought back to council and with their revisions and what they're putting on the table. Now, the reason we're talking about this and why this is now come to city council is, as everybody knows, the school has been doing some significant improvements on campus. It's a very valiant effort. $20 million improvements to the entire school district is a wonderful thing for the community. Our expansions come with a lot of costs. So part of their expansions require improved infrastructure that the school district utilizes on a daily basis. As part of their revamping of their project, they've been required to build a fire sprinkler system. However, the water line that feeds into their property doesn't have the industry standard of fire flow. We don't have an 8-inch line at that property, and they need it so that the water suppression system can be effective. That all makes sense so far?
Yeah.
On top of their other improvements, they built that football field. They provided with state-of-the-art kind of equipment. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to watch. Just look at their football stadium. It's wonderful. It's comparable to many of the larger stadiums in the state. Part of that stadium has these stadium lights that also needs a significant amount of power that our city's infrastructure was not equipped or have the capacity to service it. If it did, there's risk that it could push back onto the rest of the electrical system. And so a lot of these findings have uncovered in the last month or so. We've been operating under this handshake agreement of, all right, we'll work together, but you agree to pay these reimbursements. Now that we're talking material, actual labor being done, we're seeing just on the electrical side, the cost of upwards $70,000. If there's not an agreement in place that who's taking out what expenses, it would leave the city holding the bag. If the city could do it, we would, but obviously we didn't plan for a $7,000 expense for an improvement that the city didn't embark. Although I would speak on behalf of the city to say that we really appreciate the efforts that they're doing, and they've done a very thorough job of cooperating with everybody. Although there are a lot of difficult decisions that have had to be made, I think that they've done a stellar job working with others, and they're not letting these road bumps stop them from making these improvements. Their initial response is, okay, what do I do to fix this? And they've been very helpful to work with. And so that's why we're bringing this agreement forward, as to honor that handshake agreement. Now that expenses for the actual infrastructure improvements, the professional services that are being applied and used on the city's end are reimbursed by them. And so there's not any kind of misunderstanding of the city is going to have to pay out a $70,000 bill, and there's no accountability for them to reimburse us for that. This is mostly protecting the city. Not that we don't think they're honest people. It's just it would be poor practice of the city to just keep on operating under this handshake agreement. That said, the agreement strictly mentions that any kind of expenses incurred, if the city gets a bill, we'll pay it, but they will pay us back as long as the job is being done appropriately. We still, at the end of the day, will be maintaining those improvements. So a transfer of guarantee of whatever the improvements are. So if we install the 8-inch water line and there turns out to be a defect from the manufacturer or something, the city would own that policy and get reimbursed for it or do what it needs to do. It also requires that our city engineers, who are constantly working with our water system, are monitoring the kind of improvements they're suggesting to make sure that it makes sense on the city side. And also that same fact goes for our electrical system, that it's something that we can maintain. And at the end of the day, the city moving forward the next 10 to 50 years is going to still maintain those services. And the city will, although the school district will be paying for those services, it's our responsibility that the upkeep is maintained. If you guys want to take a minute and read through it, it's totally fine with me. If there's any questions so far, feel free to let me know. I would encourage that we continue with this agreement. We did have our city attorney help develop this agreement. She did a lot of work on this and make sure that we're covered on both ends and nobody is getting taken advantage of. At least I would say.
So the most important provisions for the city on page 2 is section 2.04. It gives the city the right to inspect the work that's done on the water mains and approve it to make sure that it's up to the city's code standards. And in the event that it's not, then the contractor working for the school district has to correct the work at their own expense, which is typical for construction contracts and public works projects.
And we usually use our engineer firm to do construction management, construction observing. They use a Justin Gregory, who's done pretty much every project I've been involved with MRB in the city. Does a good job. And to inspect it before ditches filled up, things are hooked up, inspect it a couple times throughout the whole process. Maybe like twice a day, I think. He'll stop by in the morning, afternoons, or once a day, needed, whatever.
I also want to emphasize that the superintendent and other key players in the improvements for the school is also they're aware of this situation. They're not being blindsided by this agreement. I've been talking with them. If anything, he's participated a little bit in the development of this. So when they receive it, it shouldn't be much of a shock when they learn that the city approved this agreement. But we've been talking about this in great detail for about some time now. And then that goes for the construction manager and the superintendent. And what role does Mr. Eric Berry play in this?
He's the, Eric is in charge of he's the big general contractor.
Okay.
Yeah, the district over there, but this is going through the third party. My understanding, because we're paying, the school district paying for it.
Yeah. So we've been in conversation about this agreement with all those.
And this is for both water
And electrical. Yes.
So, did I understand you correctly that we won't have the electric?
Yes, we will.
We will.
We will.
What were you saying about the,
Well, they need that 8-inch water line for their fire flow, and then they need an
you said
upside.
something about the electric.
It's undersized also for the amount of load.
Right.
The new stadium, I mean, before you didn't have
So,
they're adding a new
We don't, you're
cafeteria.
saying we don't have the staff to put that
No, we're adding
True.
three phase over there.
in.
Yeah,
So they're adding the stadium lighting,
and the new
the new
cafeteria.
cafeteria, the softball lighting,
Okay.
the
The
baseball
baseball.
lighting, and whatever's going on right there at the Ag Barn area,
Yeah.
all that facility.
The big AC units and everything in the ag barn and all that stuff.
Okay.
At the end of the day,
Okay.
it would be a shame that once they finish a project, that the utilities don't work.
Flip it all on and then burns the lines down because, you know, it's undersized or something.
Right.
Blows up the transformer and half the city.
That's
goes
why
out
all these
and everybody's
precautions are
yelling
being
at the mayor.
taken,
Okay.
that those $20 million are going to real use.
So it's the same kind of thing we do with any other development in town. Like, they're responsible for, getting the water, you know, that's required to their
Okay.
property, electric that's required to their property,
Okay.
stuff like that. So, any other questions? I know Miss Jackie is saying just rightfully so because she's a actual employee of the school and she's one of the leaders of this project. And so, it's her right to abstain from that. Just, so she's not crossing the lines. So,
And if we're ready, I'd like to make a motion to,
do you have any questions? Okay. I don't think there's any questions over here. Go ahead, Ms. Richard, sorry.
to approve the interlocal agreement with Bartlett Independent School District, public improvement reimbursements.
We got a Vicky, motion on the table to enter into the interlocal agreement with Bartlett ISD for the, public improvement reimbursements. Jesse has seconded that motion.
Who did? I'm sorry.
Jesse? All in favor? Carries 3-0. Thank you. Do you want me to go ahead and sign our side?
Yeah, that's fine. You need a notary. So
I'll do it tomorrow though. Maybe. Not wait a week, who knows? I'm just kidding. All right, let me get my light out here. All right,
Don't worry, that one on your head.
the headlight. Item number 6. At this time, we'll enter into executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.086. The City Council will recess into executive session, close meeting to discuss the following. Item A, interlocal agreement transmission operator. So,
Was that in our packet?
no,
No, it's intention left out. There's trade secrets involved in it, and so that was the
So fancy.
What time did we?
oh, I'm sorry, we're going to executive session at about 7:47 PM. So let's mosey on to the next room for a few minutes and then we'll talk about this. We'll be back, Miss Brenda.
Hey,